On January 26, 2025, Nintendo announced their long-awaited and often leaked sequel to their incredibly popular console, the Switch. The Switch 2 was shown off with a basic overview of its appearance and functions. Only one game was shown for it, a new Mario Kart. And that made sense. Mario Kart has long stood as a pillar of Nintendo's gaming platform. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the 5th best-selling video game of all time. No, not 2017, the year of its release, of all time. Mario Kart 64 was the 2nd best-selling game on the N64. It is frankly absurd just how popular and beloved Mario Kart is to so many people. And all I can say is, I don't get it. Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration. I get it, I do, somewhat. It's a fast and frantic party game with a simple and clear objective. Its focus on multiplayer and use of items means a variety of players of different skill levels can participate and theoretically have a good time. You could be a 10-year-old kid who has the reflexes of a dead skunk playing against a kid twice your age, but if you get lucky, you could clutch out a win. It's not very likely, but it's possible. But for me personally, my friends weren't the kind to come over and play Mario Kart. We were more the sit around a table and pretend to be wizards type of group. Plus, I'll be honest, I've just never been a big fan of multiplayer games. I don't hate them, but as a kid, I always just got frustrated whenever I lost to people. And that's not even counting for the times my friends would get toxic against me when I won. So I never got into Mario Kart. But that's not to say I never played a kart game. Diddy Kong Racing released 1 year after Mario Kart 64, and frankly, you can tell. Because this game is overflowing with content compared to Kart 64. It has an overworld, it has unique challenges, it has bosses for God's sake. The only other kart game I know of that has this is Crash Team Racing. Remember the release of Street Fighter V? And how all anyone could talk about there was, where is the single player content? Where's arcade mode? Where's a story mode? Where are challenges? Why is this literally only online play and training? Well, I sort of feel the same way about racing games. Yes, racing your friends is important. Being able to have good multiplayer matches is necessary. That's arguably where the real magic of these games comes from. But you still need something for lonely old losers like me. You can't just sit down and play a bunch of cups back to back and hope that'll satisfy people. You need to give us something more. And Diddy Kong Racing does. It has a legitimate story mode. An evil pig wizard from outer space has taken over this island. And the tired kid who rules his island asks his good pal Diddy Kong to help him take it back. By racing each other. That'll somehow impress the Guardians to give us an amulet that'll let us race the space pigs so we can... You know what, yeah, the story is nonsense, but it's something! We have a villain, and we need to race in order to beat the villain. That's honestly all you need. The items in this game are also handled really smartly. You have these balloons that give you different power-ups depending on the color. Blue balloons give you a speed burst. Red balloons give you missiles that stun other racers. Green balloons give you hazards that let you sabotage other racers behind you. And yellow balloons give you a shield that protects you from missiles and other racers slamming into you. Then you have a rainbow balloon that gives you a magnet that I think pulls you toward other racers. Yeah, this one kind of sucks, I won't lie. This game's homophobic. But that's not all. They don't just give you a specific power-up. If you hit balloons of the same color more than once, they upgrade your power-up to become stronger. Oil slicks become mines, then they become bubbles. Trust me, bubbles suck, you don't want to fall into one. The whole game was just littered with fun bits of tech and strategy. More so than the Mario Kart of the time. Plus, this game also introduced us to one of Rare's most iconic mascots. A character who would go on to enchant and marvel us for years to come. Conker!
Bob, I'm going to take your head and ram it up my butt.
Your butt.
My butt.
Your butt.
That's right, my butt.
Ugh.
My butt. My butt!
Oh, and I guess Banjo is there too. Seriously, this game is so good. Nothing about it has aged poorly.
I am the genie of the island. I'm here to help you. Good luck.
One thing about it has aged poorly. Anyway, I'm going to be ranking the tracks of this game from worst to best. Now, I should preface, again, I don't have many friends who I can just sit down and play games with. So I'm not going to be grading these tracks based on how fun they are in a multiplayer context. I'm just going to be ranking them based on how fun they are to race in the single player. Maybe some of these tracks are more fun with friends, but I doubt that. I will also be ranking the DS exclusive tracks in this list too, so in total we'll have 24 tracks to look at. Also, on the off chance you haven't seen my other ranking videos, I'm borrowing Shay Frillis' soundbite before the actual ranking idea, cause, I don't know, I just like how that works. And just like his ranking of the Mario Kart tracks, I'll be ranking the battle tracks in the middle of the list. And I'll probably rank the bosses near the end too, probably before we get to the top 5. So are you ready? It's on! It's on like Diddy Kong! Doesn't sound right.
You may be big, but you ain't bad. The Boulder's gonna win this in a landslide.
One aspect of Diddy Kong Racing I didn't touch on was the different vehicles. You have karts, sure, but you also have planes and hovercrafts. And of these 3, hovercrafts are probably the worst. Just because the physics of the game can be kind of a pain in the butt. Sometimes you'll hit an incline the wrong way and oop, all your momentum is gone. And no other track in this game exemplifies this problem more than Boulder Canyon.
It's time to follow me.
Yeah, this is probably gonna get me cancelled. But Manatee, I hear you say. You drive through a castle dungeon in this level. There's a drawbridge where if you hit the bell, the bridge is pulled up and forces racers to take the long way around. Well yeah, all of that is cool, except the bridge only works on other players. Yeah, NPCs just straight up ignore the bridge. See, look, the bridge is up, but they're still passing me. They follow NPC logic of there only being obstacles if you, the player, can see them. That probably makes this level better in actual multiplayer, but even ignoring that, we also have these logs. And they suck ass. They spin around and it's practically guaranteed that if you run into these, you're fucked. Avoiding these things is absolutely key. I appreciate the alternate path in the castle itself, but so much of this level is ruined by the hovercraft's controls in water. It's a great level to go through conceptually, but in execution, it's just a pain.
Hey everybody, here we are today. We're at Thunder Cove.
The DS version of Diddy Kong Racing makes several changes to it that are questionable. For one thing, no Banjo or Conker, probably because they were tied up in Microsoft at the time. Instead, we get Dixie Kong and... Tiny Kong, really? She's already a copy of Dixie and you use her? Come on, if you need another Kong, couldn't you give us Lanky or Chunky or, I don't know, Candy even? Whatever, point is, the DS remake has a lot of weird changes to it that I won't get into, because I'm just here to talk about the 4 unlockable tracks it adds. Thunder Cove is the first of these, and it's probably the track with the least to talk about. Its theme is jungle. It even uses the Jungle Hijinks theme from Country. Oh boy, so are we gonna see some actual Donkey Kong characters in this? Like Rambi or Expresso or it's just a boring jungle track. They have alternate paths, but they don't really do anything. Why is this even called Thunder Cove? Like here, do what Country 1 did in its first 2 levels. Lap 1, basic jungle. Lap 2, have clouds appear overhead. Lap 3, have it rain with lightning in the background. I'm not even proposing you make lightning a hazard or anything, just do an interesting idea. Yeah, the DS tracks are overall pretty boring. And speaking of...
Sploosh!
Yeah, 2 DS courses are going near the bottom here. I don't feel bad about doing that, because again, they're just kinda nothing courses. Splashdown Pass is just slightly above Thunder Cove because I think it's a bit more interesting, but yeah, it's neck and neck. This one has a river that slows you down, but it has a boost balloon and a bridge with red missile balloons next to it. I guess that's kind of a strategic thing, but man, I don't even know what else to say. Both of these levels have nothing else going for them. I know for a fact Boulder Canyon at the bottom will be a hot take, but I don't expect anyone to come to these 2 tracks' defenses. Probably because hardly anyone even played this remake, but yeah. I guess they made Tosh slightly less racist in this version. So, yeah, game uncancelled, hooray.
How can I help you?
Scientists think that an ancient sea survived there.
Ancient Lake is the first track in this game, and unless you go out of your way to get a bunch of balloons in the overworld, it'll probably be the first real track you play in Diddy Kong Racing. Being the first track, I obviously don't expect it to wow me much, but I will say, it does have some stuff going for it. More than some Mario circuits anyway. Like it has rocks. And, oh, the Titular Lake. The Titular Lake has an Apatosaurus wandering around. Admittedly, it's kind of a bullshit hazard because you don't know when or if it'll be walking in front of you when you get to its location, so it's frustrating in that respect. And it's not even the only track in the game with an Apatosaurus, so yeah, sadly, this one just doesn't have much going for it. I can give it points for what it is, but it's still pretty boring.
Let's look for treasure! Yes, let's look for treasure!
Treasure Caves is a track with a promising theme and track name. Like, oh wow, a pirate-themed level? And you go into a cave with a sunken and destroyed ship? Maybe you'll go into the wreckage and dive through a pile of golden jewels or... Oh. Okay. Yeah, it's just a dingy old cave full of poo water and 2 pirate ships. Which you don't even touch, they're just off there in the distance. For the last track of Sherbert Island, it's kind of a ripoff. I think this cave is supposed to have like a spooky atmosphere, but spoilers, a later level does a much better job at that. Plus, I mean, just look at the map here. It's just a misshapen circle, which I know is a lot of tracks, but still. The most interesting thing here is the tunnel on the side that can only be accessed if you play this stage with planes, which, considering carts are the default vehicles of this level, means you won't ever see the inside of this thing unless you intentionally go back and pick plane. The frustrating thing is, Diddy Kong Racing makes you race through these tracks 3 times basically. Once as normal, second time a silver coin challenge, and third time a trophy run. And man, they could have so easily mixed up the pace of the adventure mode by giving you different vehicles on certain tracks. It's so weird that they would intentionally design certain shortcuts in this level to use different vehicles, then never make you use that vehicle for the track in the game proper.
You're Snowball 5, but to save money on a new dish, we'll just call you Snowball 2.
Snowball Valley is just one of those tracks that I just forget exists every time I play this game. Among Snowflake Mountain's tracks, I think it's the least interesting. It has 2 things of note. One is a shortcut involving an ice bridge. That's cool, it gives you an interesting choice to make. Like, yeah, it's a shortcut technically, but it's also a much more narrow path. And it also sends you out at a much more awkward angle compared to the normal path. So you have to choose. Take the shortcut that you know other players are going to take and try to maneuver at the end, or stick to the slower but more reliable path where you have a better chance of taking the lead if you know how to drive. But as for the titular Snowball Valley itself, yeah, it's just one big open area. It's pretty easy to dodge the snowballs, and like, they're just snowballs. You'd kinda hope they'd be in more sections of the track than this one place. Oh well, it's still got some interesting things going on, so it gets to be here. Meandering Mountains is the 3rd DS level I'm talking about, and while it's good enough to get here, yeah, you can probably guess I don't think too highly of the DS exclusive tracks in this game. The only reason this level gets to be here is because it has minecart tracks inside the mountains. Those are cool and are an actual reference to the country games. We don't actually see anything inside those mine shafts, but they're still cool. I like how some of them are actually traps that send you falling back if you go into them. That's a neat thing, I guess. Though if you really mess up, you can basically be put into an unwinnable situation. But that's card games for you. Still gets to be here.
Come on, guys! We could use whales! Whales!
Whale Bay is a pretty alright hovercraft level. That's only real downside is that's a hovercraft level, and that's track design is a bit basic. Otherwise, I do like the tropical aesthetic, and I like how this whale helps you onto the pirate ship. Although I keep messing up and stalling out on the ridge of it, but it's still fast enough against the computers, so eh. I wish there were a few more whales in this whale-themed track, but there's still enough that I'm willing to cut it some slack. I would take 1,000,000 whales in this game over 1 log, and I am completely serious about that. The log sucks.
Take a look at this fossil right here.
Fossil Canyon is the 2nd track of Diamond Domain, and thus the 2nd track of the game. It's more involved and more interesting than Ancient Lake, but not by much. I like how there's a boost pad right in front of the lake, taunting you with the promise of using it to get a shortcut. But it's a lie. The person you're trying to overtake will always pass you, or maybe it's just a lie if you're a heavy character like Banjo, I don't know. Either way, you also have this part. I'll be honest here, I see no benefit from taking the high road when the low road just seems objectively superior. It gives you a miss on everything if you go down here. I guess the fact it's narrow means you can put a mine or an oil slick there to trip people up, so you might want to avoid it in that context, but other than that, it's the most easy choice in the track. Still a pretty good track though, just be wary of certain forbidden fruit.
We've now reached our cruising altitude! If you look out the window, you'll see the Rocky Mountains!
Everfrost Peak is kinda mid. It's the first plane track of this list, and is therefore the weakest plane track in the game. Why is that? The planes are so much fun to fly in this game. Well, the simple answer is, I just find it kind of bland. It's a big, dumb figure-8 course with snow. No set pieces, no real branching paths, nothing to make it stand out from any other track in this game. I'm seriously trying to think of something unique it has, and I got nothing. It's the only plane course in Snowflake Mountains, so yeah, I guess that's all there is to it. Sorry to all the Everfrost Peak fans out there, but yeah, your level's not peak. It's mid.
We pillage, we plunder, we rifle and loot, drink up, me hearty Joe-ho.
Pirate Lagoon is a really pretty track that sadly doesn't have much else going for it. It's a hovercraft level, out in water like in Whale Bay. But unlike Whale Bay, I find it a bit more interesting in terms of track design. It has these islands with power-ups on them, so you need to risk potentially losing momentum to get a balloon. I also really like this boost near the end that sends you into a ramp over this rock. This usually works, but it's also just risky enough that I could see some players not taking it. The only part I'm not a huge fan of is this big open area near the start. Just cause, who on earth would even take this other half and not just go in a straight line? There aren't even any power-ups over there. I can kinda guess why, but to further explain that.
Ha ha ha, ho ho ho, and a couple of tra-la-las. That's how we laugh the day away in the merry old land of Oz.
Greenwood Village is probably the only time playing this game that I really regret my love of good old... See, Banjo is a heavy character, so his handling is pretty bad, but his max speed is good. He's by no means a bad character, he's not Crunch. But Greenwood Village probably has the most amount of turns and twists of any track in this game, which is absolutely toxic for a character like Banjo. The worst offender is the Silver Coin Challenge. See, this challenge puts a bunch of coins on the track and expects you to collect them before placing first. Basically to force you to explore all the various parts of a track. They range from pretty simple to oh dear god why, and Greenwood Village is definitely in the oh dear god why category. If you play this game, maybe consider abandoning your love for Banjo and go for Tip Top instead. As for the track itself, I like this well in the town center you can fall into for a shortcut, and this log shortcut is pretty cool, but they're both pretty unreliable, at least in my experience. Look, if it sounds like I really hate this track, I'm sorry, but I swear playing this as Banjo is one of the hardest things I've done, and I had to retry the Silver Coin Challenge so many times. It's still a pretty neat level though, and I'll take a level being too hard over being too boring any day of the week. It's just something that bothered me personally.
Maybe my third wish would be for a couple of croissants.
Crescent Island is a level that has a lot going for it. 2 alternate tracks, one filled with bumps and power-ups, but the other being much more narrow and roundabout but offering you a boost. There's a pirate ship you go inside with 2 entrances. There's waterfalls and all sorts of cool tropical vibes. It's just a really solid but basic level overall. I don't really have much else to say about it other than one thing. See, this game's adventure mode makes you unlock the battle maps by finding keys in various tracks. Some are just out in the open off to the side. But Crescent Island has a battle map key and it takes the cake. Oh, it's out here, in this cave, in water, in a track that, need I remind you, uses cars as a default option. Meaning you gotta go back in there with a hovercraft, or you gotta slowly float up to it. Now thankfully, you don't have to win the race to get the key. Once you got it, it's yours and you can unlock the battle map. I've seen actual tools-assisted speedruns of this game where the player floats up to this key in their car, then just restarts the race. Cause that's actually faster and more possible than just winning the race at this point. It really does just highlight how this game should have given you different vehicle options for tracks in the actual missions. So yeah, outside of that one stupid design choice, this track is pretty cool. So now that we're halfway through this list, it's time we look at the battle tracks of this game. There's only 4 to speak of though, so yeah, this is gonna be short. The worst of the battle tracks is Smoky Castle. 2 of the tracks in this game don't follow conventional battle track rules, and this is one. The objective of this track is to collect bananas throughout the track, then drive to the chest with your character's portrait on it and store them away. First player to 10 bananas is the winner. Okay, that sounds simple enough, Oh, you can only carry 2 bananas at a time. What the hell is that? Let me carry as many bananas as I want. If I get hit by a missile, I lose them anyway. Think about how much more chaotic and fun this would be if there was an actual level of risk-reward there. Have a mark over players indicating how many bananas they have. Do you risk carrying a bunch of bananas and drawing the ire of players who want to stop you? Or do you play it safe, grab a few bananas and just keep putting them away? Having players only get 2 bananas at a time only drags it out unnecessarily. After that, we got Icicle Pyramid. This is a more standard battle map. Players got a certain level of health and you take damage from missiles. The multiple levels are a neat idea and I like the narrow corridors. Although, I could imagine playing this with actual friends could become a pretty aggravating game of peekaboo. Against CPUs, it's pretty easy though. Fire Mountain is next, and this is another battle track that's a bit more complicated. You need to get these eggs from the central volcano and put them into your nest. The eggs hatch after a time, and the first player to hatch 3 eggs wins. You can steal eggs from other players too. So I imagine the strategy in battle here gets pretty hectic. I imagine it could be pretty easy for a particularly sneaky player to troll others in the battle map here and come out on top. The best battle map is... I just like the way he says that. It's a basic battle map with a simple objective of player elimination. And while I don't remember a ton of this game from my childhood, I do remember playing my brother on this map a ton. It's probably the most simple and straightforward of the battle maps. Just a lot of islands you can hide behind and missiles to use. The controls of the hovercraft and the more open-ended design encourage more direct face-offs, which I think helps this map a lot. So it gets to be number 1. Yeah, still only 4 maps of this game, so, oh well, let's move on to the rest. I'm the Strangler! Strangler Trine is probably the best of the exclusive DS tracks for one simple reason. It's actually kinda interesting. Like, you go inside a temple, you cruise through a bunch of rocks. There's a variety of locations you get to experience instead of just tunnel and open jungle. But Manti, I hear you say, what about the logs? You hated them so much in Boulder Canyon, so why don't they bother you here? Easy. The DS's controls are a lot more simple. And the logs are less in your way in this track, so you can much more easily avoid them. Yeah, that's my argument. Pretty okay track. It sucks that the unlockable tracks in the DS version are overall pretty underwhelming. I would have much preferred them to just make a whole new world and boss, but no use complaining now of all times.
Hey everybody! It's time for that wedding!
Frosty Village is another one of those levels that really sucked having to get through as Banjo. It has a ton of twists and turns, and the silver coin challenge was maddening. But there's still a lot to like about it. It really puts you into that Christmas mood like no other track does. I find it funny how snow levels often give themselves a Christmas theme to make them more colorful. Is that me making baseless assumptions? It's called Frosty Village. Hello? Frosty the Snowman is a Christmas song. Actually, is it a Christmas song? They don't mention Santa or presents anywhere in it. Or Jesus. You know what, screw it, it's still a Christmas song. And look, the trees have lights and ornaments on them. Totally a Christmas thing. Only other parts of it I don't like are the forest section and this one water section. The forest section has some boost pads off the track, and there's also a water tunnel in this section. Again, it feels like there should have been a hovercraft option for the trophy race or something. But I'm becoming a broken record on this. Still a good track.
Don't tell me. We're about to go over a huge waterfall.
Jungle Falls is a great level. You have an ancient temple coming onto a badland with a freaking dinosaur skeleton right there at the end. That is so cool right off the bat. And yes, the dinosaur skull does in fact have a boost pad in the center of it. I don't know anyone who doesn't go for this pad immediately. It's like mandated by law that you have to try and go in through there. The only time I don't is if there's a silver coin challenge or I mess up or something. But I would never willingly avoid the skull, even if it would be faster. It also has a tunnel design for planes, but honestly, I don't care about this one. Why? The dinosaur skull! How can you drive a plane through this? You can't. So yeah, great level. Walrus Cove is a pretty uninteresting level at first glance. It's just a boring ice world. I like this bit near the end of the lap with the 2 pathways. One narrow and one more open. It's got a cave, and an open part with some hills. What else? Oh yeah! The freaking loopity-loop. This track not only has a loopity-loop, it goes through it. That is so cool right out the gate, and it makes me like this track even more. Do any Mario Kart tracks have a loopity-loop? No, seriously, I'm actually asking. I can't recall, and I'm certain there has to be at least one. Like, yeah, Mario Kart 8 has anti-gravity, and that's kind of the same thing, but this is still an N64 game doing it, never mind. It's just a really cool set piece that puts it here. What could be better than a loop-de-loop? Future Funland is the best world in this game, bar none, and probably has the best tracks overall. But Dark Moon Caverns is probably the worst of them. Like, it's caves, on an asteroid. You're not exactly selling us on the majesty of space here. Hey, remember that iconic scene in Star Wars where the Millennium Falcon was trapped in a dark cave? Ooh man, that sure was a memorable scene. But it also has lasers. You know, blasting at nothing. I swear I've never been hit by these and I honestly don't know what they're doing. So yeah, pretty boring level. I don't know why it's so high even. Oh my god, another loop-de-loop! But it doesn't have a track going through it, so I don't know why. Oh my god, another loop-de-loop after the first one? 2 back-to-back? You madman. You geniuses, you did it. Finally something better than a loop-de-loop. 2 loop-de-loops. You've won the Nobel Prize, good sir. World peace is at hand.
Canst thou not see? What? A monstrous giant.
Windmill Plains is a Platin course that gets to be here for one simple reason. I really like the vibes of it, yeah, that's it, sorry. But for real though. The windmills are really pretty and I like how you can fly the plane under them to get power-ups. I could easily see them deciding to make this a boring car or hovercraft level, but no. They realize that in order to really appreciate the full scope of these giant spinning hands, you need to be up and able to see them. Admittedly, they don't make for obstacles so much as they're just fun set dressing. But hey, after all this tough racing, at least I'll have those windmills to cool me off. Hey, Morbo? Eh? Cool me off? Right? Morbo? Anyway. So before we get to the top 5 tracks, I figure I should rank the other aspect that makes Diddy Kong Racing unique. The boss fights! This game basically has 5 bosses that you encounter throughout the game. Although one of them takes place in a unique track, so in total we'll put this at 6. So why am I ranking these bosses separately? Simple! The bosses are meant to be an entirely different challenge to a track. The tracks only to assume that you'll be racing other players in a competitive environment, whereas the bosses are just CPU challenges meant to be overcome. So I think ranking them separately is called for. Anyway, worst boss's tricky challenge. Specifically the second one. Again, maybe playing as Banjo screwed me up here, but this boss is just plain frustrating. You absolutely need to use the starting boost trick against him, because otherwise, these stupid logs will block or hit you, and at that point, you may as well just start over now because you've already lost. Plus, the level itself is just one big curl. Like some kind of spiraling mountain thing. Anyway, I hate you, Tricky. I hope Rare never makes another game with a dinosaur in it. But I do hope they someday make a Star Fox game. That would be pretty fun. Whoop. Why is the monkey paw curling? Second worst boss is Bubbler Challenge. Guess what's back? That's right, logs. And not just logs, bubbles! Get hit by either one and your race is basically over. Might as well restart. Thankfully the logs are easy enough to avoid here, but still. Bluey challenges after that. Also, yeah, this guy's name is Bluey, like the dog character. I just thought that was funny. He's just a simple downward race to the end. For some reason his racetrack reminds me of Sonic Adventure's snowboarding level. Whatever, it's fine. Also, I just realized he has a butler's bib on. You know, those kind that go ba-da-da-ding in old cartoons. Why is this guy so fancy? Whizpig's first strike is next. There are no balloons here, just boost pads, and you need to hit basically everyone to stand a chance against him. It is insane just how much of a difficulty spike this one boss is. I can see why kids were scared of Whizpig thanks to this one course. Smokey Challenge is next. It's a lot of fun. I like the vibes of his level, plus I mean, he's a dragon. That is just cool, man. You need to avoid his smoke from his mouth to not... Oh god, I hope that's smoke from his mouth. At number 1, we have the last race against Whizpig, and oh man, they actually did it. They made an epic sci-fi movie reference. That's why they call this race the Wrath of Khan.
Do you know the Klingon proverb that tells us revenge is a dish that is best served cold?
I mean, Whizpig Strikes Back.
No. I am your friend.
I wonder if any more Star Wars references will make an appearance, who knows. Anyway, the final race has it all. His spaceship firing at you, a big energy room full of lasers. The only thing I'm not a big fan of is the caverns, but that's excusable. Still an incredible climax to this game. Also, I just realized this room is his throne room. This guy is making you race through his own evil lair. And now back to top 5. Star City gets to be here under the virtue of just how pretty it is. Seriously, this might have the most variety of any other track in this game. You drive out onto a bridge that takes you into an Epcot dome, where you appear in the midst of a bustling metropolis, with buildings and lights everywhere. It's a really fun level to just look at. Plus it has a rainbow tunnel. I don't got anything, rainbow tunnel makes you gay. Hey, this game is no longer homophobic, yay. The only reason it's not higher is because there isn't much else going on in the track design. No alternate paths or much in the way of unique courses. It's just a really pretty set piece you gotta get through. But that's enough to put at number 5. Krakatoa! Hot Top Volcano sucks. Is what I would say if I was a liar. Yeah, no, this level is great. In fact, it honestly kind of bugs me that it's the only lava-themed track in the entire game. Like, come on, Sherbert Island could have had a volcano track. That would have been way cooler than Treasure Caves. Ah, well, whatever. It's the first real plane track you'll play, and it's also one of the best tracks, period. It's got dinosaurs, lava flows, and some pretty neat alternate paths. Not much else to say other than it's good. Space Dust Alley is the introduction to Future Funland, and man, what an introduction it is. As a level, it's got it all. Electrical fields, multiple pathways, floating rocks, tunnels with power-ups between stalagmites. It's just a thrill ride of a stage from start to finish, and it really makes use of the planes. I really wish I had more to say about it other than it's fun with a capital F.
Beware of hitchhiking ghosts.
Haunted Woods is a great example of a level that capitalizes on its promise. We got a creepy castle, a chain-filled dungeon, a fountain in the middle, and ghosts! Admittedly, I think it's a bit lame that all the ghosts are just Wizpig's head, but still a cool effect. The vibes of this level just carry it for me, and it makes the level a truly good time to play through. Plus, I can't help it, I just like this music a lot. I don't know why, but for some reason it reminds me of the Haunted Mansion theme. Like, listen. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who hears it. Anyway, yeah, really fun level to end Dragon Forest on. So, I think Star Wars was an inspiration on the developers of this game. Because I distinctly remember playing this game with my brother, my cousins, and my friends growing up, and we all had the same collective reaction to the stage. Is that the trench run from A New Hope? Spaceport Alpha is the best track in Diddy Kong Racing for this one set piece alone. Lasers flying at you everywhere, boost balloons and pads all over. Do you grab the shield near the entrance to protect yourself? Or do you risk it? There are so many things that go on in this one section alone that you almost forget about the air gusts that lift you up. The trippy Tron-esque hallway, or the starry sky, or the metal walls. This is the track that delivers on the promise of a space-themed course more than any other. You could play this course with cars or hovercrafts, but why would you? The point of this is that you need to fly to avoid the laser fire. It's designed for flying above all else. Which I think is a good example of a well-designed track, when you can't think of any way you could improve it. Give it a loop-de-loop. Yes, I don't know how that would work for planes, but whatever, make it work. Whatever, still gets to be number 1. Spaceport Alpha, the best track in Diddy Kong Racing. So that was Diddy Kong Racing, a really cool and fun kart racer from the N64 era. If you're at all a fan of Mario Kart or Crash Team Racing, I recommend you check it out. If for no other reason than to see what other kinds of karting games used to be out there. Now, what to do next? I probably should look at Donkey Kong 64. But like, I don't know, ranking the world seems a bit easy and old hat. I guess I could... Nah, that'd be madness. Ranking every golden banana in Donkey Kong 64? That'd be insanity, that'd be crazy. I don't need to do that. I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it. Definitely don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it. I need